proceedings before the county or before the council and any reviews thereof by the courts. If the county prosecutor refuses to accept the responsibility, council shall appoint a special prosecutor who shall prosecute the removal proceedings before the council and any reviews thereof by the courts. If a person accused is not finally removed, the city shall pay the responsible cost of the defense of such persons and any compensation withheld pending the appeal of the action of the council. Now, that part, that last part, that council shall, what was it again? Council shall pay the responsible cost of the defense of such persons. If he's not removed, council shall pay the cost of the defense. So, there's a potential of more cost to the city. Hiring, all the time it's going to take, preparation. I mean, there's a lot here for an email asking, inquiring about a property. Quickly, I want to share something. My opinion, really. The comments made outside of the alleged charter violation were inappropriate and really only served those looking for political reasons to chastise Representative Otto before his day. So what I mean by that, and I had to write myself some notes so I remembered, is that they not only, and they meaning council and those who took part in the discussion against him, they not only, and even for him, if you will, they not only talked about the complaint that was never written, remember that, they they not only talked about that, but they began to say why they were offended and why this was disheartening. Basically, a pre-trial before the trial, if you will, okay? The discussion on May 13th should have been for the single issue of an allegation or complaint of the alleged charter violation, and opinions towards political actions were just that, political. So yes, in my opinion, based on the knowledge we have so far, this is a political action taken on by the mayor, city manager, and city attorney. How much more political and how much further this goes, we will find out on Monday. So it's important that if you can't be there, maybe you live stream it. You, regardless if you're going there to speak on behalf of those charging this violation of the charter, and you're saying, yep, he did it, I want him removed, I want you guys to do what you got to do, or you're going to speak on Mr. Otto's behalf, okay, you need to be involved. It's important to be involved in city government. So hopefully, and I've seen a lot of people online talk about this, this is a huge issue. Mr. Otto is well liked in this city. He really is. By many people. There are people out there that don't. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. Can you believe this? Not everybody likes me. Unreal. So, for my opinion, do I believe Representative Otto violated the charter? I will simply say that the city will have to work very hard to bring forward real proof that he did, in fact, break the charter. They're going to have to work overtime. And I mean that in not overtime that they're going to have to pay people overtime wages. I mean they're going to have to work very hard to prove that what he did broke the charter. Now, if we go through this process and the process is fair and the process is in the public's eye and transparent, then as a city, I'm going to say we, because I'm hopefully moving back there here in about 3 weeks. We have to accept that. All right? We have to accept that. Now, the same way that we accepted that when we voted, or when the city voted to keep in the charter that the city manager shall, remember all those shalls? And we said we'd come back to this, and this is something. We've accepted the fact that when Mayor Gore came in, he said, no, we're not going to deal with that. Remember the separation in the charter? It's all in there. I spent a long time reading and rereading and going through this charter piece by piece. So I have a little knowledge of the charter. There are a boatload of shalls. But in that entire debate, should this stay in, the debate settled on the city attorney's opinion that there is a Supreme Court case that supersedes, which I think if you understand how that works, if something is illegal or unconstitutional, which I've read, guess what? It no longer becomes a piece of the charter. It is removed. It is no longer law. But they took it to the voters. Now, I'm not making a case for this again. I really am not. I let it go. I asked what other people thought about it. Okay? That decision was made. But this is important because there was a lot of shalls in there as well. Okay, so I'm kind of rambling and I apologize. But what happened, and from my memory, when Mayor Gore took office, it was passed on to him. This was going on before he was mayor. Okay, the city voted. They said, yes, we want our city manager to be a resident. If he is going to be the chief executive officer of our city, we want him to be a resident. We want him to be a part of our city if he's going to be creating a lot of the things that go on in the city and working with our council and running our city. We want him to be a resident here. It was voted on, but the mayor and your council let that go on the opinion of the city attorney, saying that the Constitution was settled by the Supreme Court, saying that employees do not have to be residents of the city. Well, remember the separations, remember city officials, remember employees, and then remember the manager. If you read the charter, the manager is the manager. He's not an employee. That is the argument that was made way back when. But that was not the opinion given by the city attorney. However, they could have challenged it. And at the time, from my understanding and from what I remember, and I could be wrong, please message me if I am, and let me know, hey, you're wrong. But at the time, they didn't want to go through with the cost that it would have taken to make sure the opinion was correct. And the cost coming from hiring a prosecutor, hiring someone to take this before the court to make sure, is the city manager an employee or is he the city manager? Is he a director, a department head, or is he the manager of this? So that is something that the people voted on. So take these two things, put them in context, and understand that yes, this is a political event. And however it turns out, we as a city have to accept that. But you don't have to accept people, let's use the correct word here, politicians acting on issues against your behalf. You have a choice. You have a choice at the polls. You have a choice to utilize your voice and speak out against these things. You have a choice to utilize your power for good. And whatever that is, that good, it can be subjective, certainly. And a lot of this stuff is opinion. And a lot of it we just read. There's a lot of shout. Let me read to you what the city manager part that the citizens voted to keep in. Let me read that, just so we have that. Okay, so it's in the charter, section 6.01. Okay. Appointment and qualifications. This is for the city manager. Council, by an affirmation vote of no fewer than 5 members, shall appoint a city manager, referring to in this charter as the city manager, quote unquote, or manager, quote unquote, for, and now remember what I told you about the separation of language in the charter. If shall means something, so do these words as well. For an indefinite period of time, and shall fix the compensation of the manager. The manager shall be appointed on the basis of the executive and administrative qualifications. At the time of appointment, the manager need not be a resident of the city, but shall become a resident with 6 months after appointment unless otherwise temporarily authorized by council. Council has not temporarily done this. This is an indefinite, it's a decision made. He can live outside the city, that's fine, and we've all accepted it. I have not bit on this issue. I really haven't. I've accepted it. Yeah, the people voted and council decided, hey, we're going to go a different way. Okay, that happens. You elect officials, and you have your choice to go to the polls and elect someone else if someone else is running or whatever. You have your choice to go to a meeting and say, hey, this is wrong. We want you guys to do this. You have your choice. There are referendums, initiatives. Read that in the charter if you have time. And recalls. We know all about that. Recalls were a little rough in the beginning. Then the city just had a successful recall. So the people's voice does matter. It does matter. And you have to understand that. So there's my opinion. There's some of what I'm feeling right now. And I could go on and on and on and on about how political I feel that this is. Listen, I ran against Glenn Otto. I ran against him in 2015. He was running for council. I was running for council. There was no political attacks toward one another. There was nothing like that. It was just, may the best man win. Now, I sincerely believe, now I don't know this to be fact, but in my opinion, I believe that this is all part of this election cycle. This is the tactics used by certain politicians to dirty the waters. Is that what we want in Huber Heights? Look and see who the players are. Watch how this goes down. And we'll come back and we'll do more podcasting. Now, I have since, after I ran against Mr. Otto and lost horribly and all that, I have since grown to like him. I've grown to like some of his decisions. Not all of them. I'm not 100% on board with everything. But he has a servant's heart, in my opinion. I've never been to a cookout. We never hang out and pound beers together. Nothing like that, but we are friendly. As I was friendly with Mayor Gore. And I could go into all that, but I'm not going to right now. So, there was always, phone conversations here or there. So I know a little bit about both. And I have my own opinion on the situation. Politics, not the people. Now, we can go back and talk about when he brought up, we're elected, and I'm not going to be able to say it verbatim, but Mayor Gore said something that we are policymakers. And Mr. Otto said, no, we're representatives. Well, I'm going to definitely side with the person who says that they're representing the people. And doggone it, if you are running a campaign and your slogan that you wrote on your sign says people, not politics, by God, you better be listening to the people. How can, I mean, that to me, when I look at that,